Welcome to the Activated Storytellers 18th podcast, October 19th, 2006.
This week's story is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Zephyr.
And I'm Kimberly.
And we're the Activated Storytellers.
This week we are podcasting from Ashland, Oregon, home of the Shakespeare Festival.
The Shakespeare Festival is a celebration of theater that includes not only the work of William Shakespeare, but also several other plays. They currently have 9 plays being performed.
Yes, and one might think a festival being a temporary setup, but actually it's quite permanent. There's a whole block. They've got 3 theaters that are going pretty much for the whole season, and
one of them is an Elizabethan theater. In fact, it was America's first Elizabethan theater.
There's also the new theater and the Angus Bowmer Theatre, which was named for the founder of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
Right. And their festival season is so packed that they have 2 to 3 shows going on in each of those theaters simultaneously. So they have to really coordinate what's going on, when, where, and they have to be very efficient for the changeovers, so make sure they get everything done on time, and they have got it down to a science.
Yeah, I've heard that some of the set changes actually take place in about 90 minutes in between shows.
Yes, that's true. And these are very complex set changes requiring elevators to go down 2 or 3 floors to bring up the new sets. They pack away the old sets. They change the floor. They change the lighting. They change everything, and they can do it in about 90 minutes, so they can have a matinee show, come right back in the evening, and do a different show in the evening.
Yes, and there are this season over 700 performances.
Yeah, we do about 200 performances a year, but then again, we're only 3 people, so.
Right, and their cast is, how many people were in the cast for, actually there's 11 shows going throughout the season, and they do start in February and run through the end of October. This season they did Winter's Tale, Diary of Anne Frank, Importance of Being Earnest, Intimate Apparel, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Up, Bus Stop, King John, The Merry Wives of Windsor, Cyrano, and The Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Now, the festival was founded in 1935 by Angus Bowmer, who was sort of ridiculed for thinking that he could make a go of Shakespeare in Ashland. In fact, his backers, who put up a total of $400 for this first festival, decided that maybe they should do something to recoup their investment that theater was going to lose. So they decided to stage boxing matches before the plays. Guess what? Theater made money. The boxing matches lost money. The theater actually made enough money to recoup what the boxing matches had lost.
Right, and now they have 82 actors in their theater company, at least that was what they had for this season, playing about 195 characters total. And behind each actor, for every person that you see on stage, there are about 4 off stage, working on the props, the sets, the costumes, the grounds work, selling the tickets, doing the ushering, and everything that goes into making theater happen.
What's really amazing is that there are 62 people in the costume shop alone. 62 people working on costumes. But if you've ever seen a production of a Shakespeare play, then you know that costumes can be a very big part of it.
Now, something that, speaking of costumes and actors, with actors playing multiple parts like that, they can also have some very quick costume changes sometimes. In fact, some of the quick changes they do take place in about 40 seconds. And this is with a full costume. You have to change from one costume to another, and sometimes even go to a completely different side of the stage or make an entrance somewhere completely different, all in about 40 seconds.
Which kind of reminds me of some of the shows that we've done. Like I've got a costume change that we did in a previous version of Alias Don Quixote, where I was playing Sancho in the beginning of one song. I walk backstage, come back on, and I'm dressed as the maid.
Which we've changed a bit since we did it last, but we still have some nightmare costume changes in that one.
Now, in addition to seeing the productions at the festival, you can take a backstage tour, which is what we did. We had an excellent tour guide, an actor named Rex Young, who's been with the festival for about 10 years. And he actually, as a child, lived in the Ashland area and went to the festival and caught the bug. And once you catch the bug, you can't get rid of it. So he decided he was going to be an actor, and now he is back in Ashland performing. And I tell you, I haven't seen him perform, but I would cast him as a tour guide any day. He did an excellent job. I thought it was very interesting when we went backstage at the Elizabethan Theatre to see how cramped the quarters were backstage. And he mentioned that in Cyrano they had a cast of 30. And all of them back here with these bulky costumes and swords and so on, making many entrances and exits, and with very little light back there. So even the offstage business has to be choreographed very finely.
Which is really the truth with any show. There, as much work, or possibly more, goes into what happens backstage than what you ever actually see on stage. What you see on stage as the audience is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right. I know with our shows, we have everything. When you have your props and your sets and your costumes, we work in a very small backstage area because we have to take ours with us. We never know what to expect at each of the performance locations we go to. Most of them are libraries and schools, which have no wings, have no theater setting. So we have our own backstage area, which is seriously a cubicle. It's about 4 feet by 4 feet. And in that space, we have hung up all of our costumes ahead of time, preset our props, and are ready to go so we can do things very quickly, and we know when to help each other out backstage so that the show can go on stage.
In fact, we sometimes even have to set props in the corners of the cube because we will run out of space hanging things up, and there'll be a moment or two if we're waiting for the show to start backstage, you can barely squeeze 3 people back there.
And we are particularly interested in the Shakespeare Festival and Ashland, Oregon, one of our favorite stopping points along I-5, because we've done Shakespeare in the past, and we're going to be reviving our Shakespeare show coming up for next season. It'll be opening in January, and it is Shakespeare Shazam, kind of an introduction to Shakespeare, some scenes, and giving people a taste of Shakespeare.
And I think we'll be doing something a little bit different this time around.
Well, we kind of have to, because the last time around, Zephyr was, in what we call his diaper days. He was about 2 years old when we were touring with Shakespeare the first time around, so he was not involved, and now we have a cast of 3. So, yes, we are going to be doing some things a little differently than we did it the first time.
Yes, this time we're thinking about putting Zephyr's electric guitar in the show, because this production is designed to introduce Shakespeare to youngsters who have little or no exposure to Shakespeare at all. So we include a lot of contemporary things that they can relate to.
You can learn more about Oregon Shakespeare Festival at their website, which is orshakes.org. And recommend getting tickets for the 2007 season now, as they are very popular. And their educational programs are wonderful. So do more than just seeing a show. Plan on going to the backstage tours. Plan on taking some of their classes and learning about Shakespeare when you go.
And speaking of Shakespeare, it's about time to get on to our story for this week.
Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare.
Long ago in Italy...
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Hey, I want the pizzeria! There was a teenage boy named Romeo.
Tell me not, for I have heard it all.
Who liked to hang out with his friends and play pranks.
Fool you! Ha ha!
One night, they put on costumes and went to a masked ball.
Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but let every man take him to his legs.
But it was not just any masked ball. It was a masked ball being held by the Capulet family, and the Capulets were bitter enemies with Romeo's family, the Montagues.
See any Montagues around here?
Oh, I don't see any. Keep looking over there.
All right.
Don't let them in. At the ball, Romeo and his buddies ate and drank and danced and had a great time.
Come, musicians, play! A hall, give room, and foot it, girls.
And Romeo saw Juliet, one of the Capulet family, and it was love at first sight.
After the ball was over, Romeo sneaked back to the house, where he saw Juliet on her balcony.
But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Oh, be some other name. What is in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name, would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called.
They talked and talked and decided that they were going to get hitched, which may not have been the brightest of ideas.
Meanwhile, Juliet's cousin Tybalt was angry because some of his enemies had come to his family's ball uninvited.
I am angry because some of my enemies have come to my family's ball uninvited.
He found Romeo and his friends and challenged them to a fight. There was a sword fight.
Ha! Back!
And 2 people were killed. Along came the prince. Who declared that those who were fighting must leave the city at once or be killed themselves.
I'm out of here!
So Romeo said goodbye to Juliet, for now, and left the city.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Meanwhile, Juliet's parents decided that she should marry someone else.
What? No!
A count that she really didn't like.
To escape this, she pretended to take poison and die. Hoping later to go join Romeo. But Romeo heard she was dead, so he killed himself.
So both Romeo and Juliet were dead, which was very sad. But the good thing is, because of what happened to them, the Capulet family and the Montague family became friends again.
Oh, let's have a group hug.
My brother.
Oh, my brother.
One big happy family.
Ah, yes.
Let's go have some cider. And that's the story of Romeo and Juliet.
The slightly abridged version.
And the very liberties taken with version. Well, you know, this story is very much in line with what we normally do. We usually tell folk tales, and this story was inspired by a folk tale, the Greek tale of Pyramus and Thisbe. And there have been many other variants of this story throughout the ages. 2 families are feuding, and one member of one family falls in love with one member of another family. I remember when I was a child hearing on the radio a popular song called Running Bear and Little White Dove about 2 Native Americans who were facing the same kind of situation.
Yes, very, very popular motif. Again, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival happens in Ashland, Oregon, every year for most of the year, from February through October. And also worth visiting in Ashland, of course, is the Science Works Museum.
Especially if you're there during Halloween, because... Well, why is that because?
Well, I think you know. Why didn't you tell them?
Oh, if you insist. All right. Yes. The Science Works Children's Museum is putting on a small haunted house this Halloween. It takes place in about 1,000 square feet of space. And they needed someone to design it, and knowing my experience with haunts and whatnot, I was chosen to design the Science Works Children's Museum haunted house. If you are in Ashland around Halloween, by all means, check it out. It will be pretty cool.
Yes, Zephyr has been leaving his thumbprint as we tour south from Washington all the way down to California. He's been working at haunted houses whenever he can. He also helped design and do the voice recording for a haunted house in just south of Olympia, Washington. What was the name of that one?
Twilight's Terror. Twilight's Terror. There's a Saw room, kind of like based from the movie Saw, and I got to play the voice of Jigsaw.
All right, do the voice.
What should I say? Go to Ashland for Halloween. Or Twilight's Terror, which is south of Seattle in Tumwater. It's cool. Check it out. Yes, do that.
Okay. It's fun to visit the Science Works Museum anytime, and they have a toy exhibit coming up soon that sounds really interesting. I was talking to one of the founders about it the other day. It sounds really great. There are many good reasons to visit Ashland, and we just told you about 2 of them.
Yes, so go and discover the others for yourself.
And coming up next week, we will be highlighting the Shasta Caverns in California.
See you then.
The Activated Storytellers perform at schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use American Sign Language, physical comedy, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring the stories to life. For booking information, check our website at www.activated-storytellers.com, where you can also find out when the Activated Storytellers will be performing near you, read a story, or order one of our audio CDs. Until next time.